Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Six Pack. We're here to focus on the free agency frenzy and the flurry of NFL trades that occurred at the start of the new league year. But at the start of every episode, we, of course, have the intro video. Yes, here we are, another Wednesday night on the Fantasy Six Pack network of shows and podcasts, whether we're on YouTube, Facebook, any other platforms. You could be also listening to this on the audio version of the show. So be sure to subscribe, rate, review wherever you are. If you are on YouTube, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. And if you want, you can interact with us live. Just head over to the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel, and from there, you can chat with us in the chat, as Albert is doing, saying, "Sup, fellas." Albert, great supporter of a lot of fantasy football content, and great to have you here on the Dynasty Six Pack. So yes, here we are, episode 3. I'm Kyle Senra, and normally, maybe fitting that the first time we don't have 3 of us is episode 3, just because I love the numbers so much. But yes, only 2 of us tonight. I'm joined by my co-host Jamie Perog. Jamie, how you doing?
Doing all right. I'm kind of glad the free agent frenzy kind of settled down. We get to talk about it. There's still a few more people out there we're waiting on, but not huge names for receivers like we're talking about.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's it'll be there's always players that might not sign until training camp, August, September type thing. We won't hold our breath though. It's time to get a couple episodes here of NFL free agent news. Also mention some trades. So today's episode will focus on those trades as well as the wide receiver signings. There's so many wide receivers that that almost takes up its own episode. So with the trades and receivers, we figure that's going to give good content. And next week we'll talk about quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and any other receivers we feel like we missed on this episode. Now that'll be kind of the main focus next time. So be some quarterbacks, because there were quarterbacks involved in a couple of these trades that we're going to talk about. But yeah, big focus today on the wide receivers. So that's why Chris Godwin's our cover boy. And yeah, glad to see Chris Godwin get paid and a lot of money thrown around. And so, yeah, a lot of big contracts and trades. So, Jamie, I guess let's just get right to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
NFL trades. I mean, we have a trade of the week segment that we'll do at the end of every episode. So we love dynasty trades. We're part of Dynasty Fantasy Football. We love trading. Also love to see trades happen in the NFL, and we got a few here. Maybe nothing some massive pick compensation. No one's been traded for a first, so no players of that stature. No Myles Garrett and Max Crosby weren't moved. I guess as a Browns fan, that probably makes you happy, but I guess it's the Browns, so maybe not much about the team does make you happy. As a Packers fan, I'm sad that the Packers didn't trade for either of them. But yeah, they instead got massive contract extensions. We're not an IDP, so we won't focus on their contracts. But yeah, I guess we'll progress to bigger and bigger trade compensations as we go. But we'll get started with, I believe chronologically, this was the first of these trades to occur. It was the Washington Commanders going out and trading for their wide receiver too. And so the Commanders acquired Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers, and in return gave a 5th round pick. This year's 5th, and if my research is correct, it's the 148th overall pick. So again, Washington Commanders get Deebo Samuel, wide receiver. San Francisco 49ers get a 2025 5th round pick. So Jamie, what do you think of this trade?
I think it's a pretty cheap price, 5th round pick, to get an elite player of Deebo's stature. He's only 29. He just turned 29, so he's going to be 29 all next season. So we don't have to worry about that age cliff of 30, 31 yet. And I think it's going to open up a lot for the Washington with their run game, because you have to watch out for Deebo with the rushes, like the packages that he's going to get. And I'm happy that he's actually on like a more of a high powered offense. And I think they're going to use him a lot better than San Francisco did.
And well, to the utilization, do you think there's a risk that he doesn't get the like we're probably never going to see the 2021 Deebo again, like the 7 rushing touchdowns, and then also finishing as a on his own just as a receiver. Probably would have finished as like a top 12 receiver that year. So I doubt we get the huge rushing touchdown upside of Deebo. Maybe he still gets some carries, but could this be just an efficient passing down role for him where he's getting efficient targets and catches? And maybe
Yeah, I mean, he'll still see that. He'll still see about a 20% target share, which is pretty decent. He's probably going to be your wide receiver 3 on your team, and 20%. And then he's just going to be on the other side of with McLaurin. And obviously they'll put him in the slot like a quarter of the time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to open up a lot because you got McLaurin with those deep targets, and Deebo's going to get those short, intermediate targets. And I think he'll even help in the red zone. He's been pretty decent in the red zone in the past. And plus, you got to watch out for that rushing ability he has still.
And I mean, if they have a formation where you got Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel, Austin Eckler, and Brian Robinson all on the field at the same time, and they're all kind of close to the backfield, like, man, which one of them is getting the ball on a rushing attempt? And if you overcommit to that, maybe Daniels just finds McLaurin deep one-on-one or even open. So it could be it could. I think this is a really good move for the Commanders in general.
Yeah.
We got our fantasy 6-pack main man, Joe Bond, co-founder as well. He says, love the background, Jamie.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
It's a super Jamie world over there.
Yeah, I like to be creative every episode, but I do love this background.
Yeah, so that'll be the fun thing to see is the different background every time. What's Jamie going to have now? But Joe Bond, I know he's a Commanders fan. He's in Washington, so feels like this is just a good, solid NFL move for the Commanders. As you mentioned for Deebo, like based on what he did last year, it might be an upgrade. Like this offense could operate better than what the 49ers did last year. Still don't feel like he's hitting his peak of 2021. Like that's kind of, I think, it's kind of past that. Unless the Commanders totally redesign the offense around him running, I don't think they'll do that. You might see some good receiving numbers though. So I think it could be good for Deebo, but I think it just like you said, it benefits McLaurin less focus on the defense on his level of the field. And I think it certainly helps Jaden Daniels getting that really second solid wide receiver. I think it's a good, it's good for the moves around them. I guess we could talk about the 49ers and what that leaves for them right now. I guess my one takeaway for this offseason so far is going to be, I think Juwan Jennings is going to be really undervalued.
Yes.
Like he's the guy that could see a 25% target share with Ayuk's knee injury. He's competing against Kittle and McCaffrey in theory to be like the number 1 target on the team. And it's those are tough guys to compete against for that role, but I think it's certainly attainable. So my first takeaway is like this is huge for Juwan Jennings. I think he's going to do what he did last year, maybe even better what he did last year.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Juwan Jennings, I can't remember where I'm getting him in best balls right now, maybe 7th round in that area. But in Dynasty, he's still being overlooked. He got over a 25% target share last year. Not now that Deebo's gone, Ayuk's dealing with that injury. That might even be able to go up. Someone told me I read, they said Pearsall is going to get 130 to 150 targets. I'm like, that's insane because there'd be like a 35% target share in that offense if he got all those. So he would need to do exactly what he did last year and absorb 80 to 90% of Juwan Jennings targets, which is not going to happen.
No.
So people might be overvaluing Deebo leaving and going more after Pearsall, which they should be going after Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from a dynasty perspective, I think I'd rather have Juwan Jennings than Ayuk right now. I'm pretty sure that's how my rankings reflect it. I'm super hesitant about Ayuk coming off this torn ACL. After his injury, I sold all my shares, which I know in one of our leagues, I got one of them from you, so I already flipped that one. And I think I got Brock Purdy out of it, which is I think the 49er I would rather invest in, especially the Superflex league. So I'm kind of out on Ayuk, which means I'm really in on Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Ayuk's only 27, so he's at his peak of his career, and I have him outside my top 24. I think
Dude,
he's closer to 30. Yeah, honestly.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll check right now. I think I have Ayuk outside the top 50 receivers.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like
I'm fading him completely, thinking that he's gonna do bad this year. The time to buy Ayuk will be next year, or like like 2025 during the season, when he's really struggling, or like if you're looking as a rebuilding team with your eyes to 2026. I think that's the kind of time to buy Ayuk. But right now, I've got really no interest in him. Maybe I'm over exaggerating with Ayuk being that low. I am trying to find him right now. Yeah, wide receiver 55 in my dynasty rankings currently.
Wow.
So yeah, I've definitely, there's a few times where I'm doing the rankings and it, when I'm going to publish, it's like, man, you sure about this ranking? You're like 20 spots lower than consensus on Ayuk or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm going to be stubborn about it.
Yeah, stick to your guns. I think it could work out this year.
I mean, I've ranked down Tank Dell and Christian Watson so ridiculously low. Like these guys that I really feel like their seasons are going to be compromised by injuries. I've got no interest in wanting to roster them. If I've got them, I'm trying to sell them at whatever cost I can. And I know you kind of, before the show, were thinking Ayuk's maybe the one receiver left that, there's a little bit of friction with him and Shanahan. Seems like there's always been. Is there a chance he gets traded? Like, is that the one move that maybe happens during the NFL draft? And it was something you were kind of speculating before the show.
Yeah, but it's a possibility. You kind of talked me out of actually thinking more that he does stay with the team, because they probably could get more value out of him when he is fully healthy. Like, who wants to take on a guy coming back from injury?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just find Stephon Diggs for free if that's what you're really after, right? Like, you don't have to get draft compensation. So, and I think especially after trading Deebo, it feels like the 49ers have less incentive to want to move Ayuk this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Another wide receiver trade, though, and this almost wasn't a trade, because I think there was reports of the Jaguars cutting Christian Kirk. And I feel like I think the Texans did this last year, right? Like Joe Mixon was going to be released, and then like 11th hour, they come in with an offer and they send a draft pick to secure him and not get into a bidding war on waivers or having clear waivers and be a full free agent. So Texans kind of did the same thing here, acquiring Christian Kirk for the cost of a 2026 7th round pick. Just to say it, right? Like, just to say, don't cut him, give him to us. So again, the Houston Texans get Christian Kirk. The Jaguars get a 7th round pick next year in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, this move makes sense. Instead of cutting him and having him, hit that free agent market, and they need someone in Tank Dell's place, because Tank Dell's not going to play this year. He's going to be out all year long. And
at least that's the expectation. And I think the same thing with Watson, and I mean, maybe Ayuk to a lesser extent. His injury happened earlier, but I think we really are like conservatively calling these guys a complete wash. And if they get you anything, it's a bonus. And it feels like their NFL teams might operate that way as well.
Yeah. So if they're losing Diggs, they bring in Christian Kirk. He could play that slot role. Who knows if they even draft another guy? They still have that opportunity to do that. And I think Christian Kirk's going to be like that 1 year rental, to where like he's just a plug and play this year, and then see what Tank Dell's injury is progressing, because that was a pretty nasty injury. And then what is only a 1 year deal, right? For Christian Kirk. Yeah, so
I just looked it up. He's in the final year of his contract. And I mean, his cap hit is, I wonder if the Texans have restructured it, because the cap hit's only $4.7 million. Kind of weird. I wonder if I think what I'm seeing is the Jaguars are eating like $14 million, I think, a dead cap. And so whatever's left over is, I guess, his base salary, and that's $4.7 million. So for the Texans, this isn't really counting much on your cap at all. It's not preventing them from doing something like going into, I think the news dropped today, they're going to sign Cam Robinson after trading away Laramie Tunsil. Talk about another trade for Washington, a real good football move for Washington. And we should talk more about the O-line. But to your point, Jamie, earlier about the Texans going after receiver, I think especially early in the first round, the one hesitation was, man, they really need to address offensive line. If there's a good offensive line prospect there in the mid to late first round, they'll probably go after it. Now, signing Cam Robinson, maybe you don't feel as much pressure to have to take an offensive lineman first round. They might go after a round one receiver and add that still. So
Yeah, I'm hoping they go after Ibuka, so him and Stroud can reconnect, and I think that'd be a perfect fit for that offense.
yeah, so we'll definitely see there. So I think with Kirk, it's a good spot to be in because it's a good offense that needs to target players. Like there's Nico Collins is going to command a ton.
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz is going to get his, but that wide receiver 2 role is open for now. Even if they draft a round one receiver, you guys still think when they play 11 personnel with 3 receivers on the field, that Christian Kirk's going to be out there enough. They've got a new offensive coordinator, right? So this won't be the Bobby Slowick offense. So what type of personnel usage is still kind of up in the air. But to your point of Kirk as a Tank Dell replacement, they especially like to play Tank Dell in the slot.
Yeah.
And that does seem like it's one of Christian Kirk's best places. Like he's succeeded best in the NFL when he's played in the slot. He can play on the outside. So that also does mean like when they do move to only 2 receivers, they can still utilize Kirk, depending again what they do in the draft. So I think it's a good spot for Kirk. He could have gone to a lot worse places with worse quarterbacks. So I think from his perspective, he was kind of getting close to maybe being a dead fantasy asset. There's still some hope there, and there's going to be some production. He's probably going to be a bit of a value.
Yeah, I think I got him in before the trade. I got him in the 11th or 13th round or something crazy. I think it was 13th round. And that's like no risk right there. And I think he's just going to go up, especially if they don't.
But he also might not go up that much, so he still could be a value come draft season too. So, yeah, I mean, do you think right now he's going to get more targets than Dalton Schultz?
I see that 20% target share. I don't know what Schultz gets. I'm sure it's lower than that 20.
I was doing tight end target shares. I think he's around 16 last year. I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah, Schultz last year had 15.3. I believe in 2023 with the Texans, he had 17.5. So
yeah, I mean, Kirk
expect him around that 16. The most he's ever done in his career is 18.7 with the Cowboys one year. We know how much the Cowboys love to target it. So yeah, I do think Kirk has a better chance of reaching 20%. He's done so previous times in his career.
I mean, he's usually between 20 to 25% when healthy. So
yeah, his lowest was 2020. He only had 16.3%, which again, like that's his lowest, and that's basically what Schultz is at, like what he's averaged with the Texans through 2 years. So every year other than that, it's been 2021. He had 18.1%. I think both those years were on the essentially on the Cardinals. His 2 years with the Jags, 23.2, 20.8, and I haven't done wide receiver for 2024 yet. But to your point, like he's usually around that 20%. So I would think right now he's got the better chance to be number 2 on the team in targets more than Schultz does. But again, they draft a round 1 receiver. I think that our argument shifts to that's the player, the favorite to get that 20% as that second receiver.
Yep.
All right, let's shift away from receiver for a little bit. Talk about quarterback trades. And this one involves your Cleveland Browns, Jamie. How excited are you to trade away Dorian Thompson-Robinson and just get something of value for him? But the exact
I don't really say value.
Well,
go ahead.
The Cleveland Browns get Kenny Pickett. And what they gave up was, again, Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 2025 fifth. Again, if I researched this correctly, it was the 162nd overall pick. So even later than the pick that the 49ers used to get Deebo Samuel.
Well, I wasn't a big fan of DTR. I think he actually fits better playing behind the Eagles offense as a number 2 because he's similar to Jalen Hurts, right?
Much better fit for that offense than Kenny Pickett, right? Like that's a totally different style of quarterback.
Exactly. So if something happened to Hurts, you got to change that up. They brought in
probably
Pickett.
run the touch push fairly well.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite. No one can run it as well as Hurts or Josh Allen.
Pickett, not a fan of Pickett. I know he's a former first round draft pick, like in that mid to late first round, but still former first round, and he's got a Super Bowl ring now. This is going to be the closest thing the Cleveland Browns will ever come to see a Super Bowl ring with Kenny Pickett in their locker room.
They really never had a single Super Bowl winner ever on their roster.
I don't know. I'm just.
You win a Super Bowl, you have the right to not have to go to Cleveland, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. He's going to be the backup. They're not done. They're going to draft somebody.
Okay.
Or bring somebody in because there's still a few more quarterbacks out there. I mean, it could still be Jameis Winston.
Well, Winston's still available. They could go back to him. Yeah.
Who else? I know Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson, Rogers are the big ones. Trey Lance is still available.
We could bring back Flacco.
Carson Wentz is free too. I don't know if that's. It's the Browns, so they almost don't worry about how bad the locker room is because it's already ruined anyway. It's the Browns.
But yeah, I don't know. I saw that clip of Myles Garrett. He's like grinning. He's like, "Yeah, I'm happy." I know he's hinting that he knows who they're gonna draft. He doesn't know crap because I'm sure the owners and everybody, coaches, don't even know who they're gonna get. So it doesn't matter who they get.
You're relying on the Titans, right? Like, is it going to be Cam Ward because the Titans choose to just take Abdul Carter? It seems like that's one scenario, or they have to take Shedeur Sanders at 2 because the Titans took Cam. Like those seem to be the two scenarios. Maybe they like Jackson Dart. Maybe they wait till the second round.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. They're gonna fail. It's the Browns. They are so bad in their quarterbacks. They would ruin a guy like Patrick Mahomes. If Jaden Daniels was drafted to the Browns, we would not be talking about Jaden Daniels right now.
My heart would be broken.
Yeah, he would be outside the top 30.
That's the only reason DeShone Kizer failed. I was right about DeShone Kizer. He was good. No, he was very awful. But yeah, so just looking at rankings, I've tentatively ranked Kenny Pickett right now as QB 35. And I think, to me, he's behind the Geno Smith, Stafford, Carr tier. And just ahead of Pickett are the two free agents, Rodgers and Wilson. Because if they sign somewhere, you'd imagine they have more confidence in them than Pickett. But until they do, it's tough to rank them any higher. So I don't know, just you're probably thinking 35 is too high, right?
I don't know, man. Like I don't even think I wrote Kenny Pickett's name down in my rankings. Like I'd rather go after like a Joe Milton. I'd rather have Daniel Jones, Hendon Hooker.
I do have Daniel Jones at 32, so I do also agree. Like the chance that Daniel Jones can get starts with the Colts. The rushing guys to me, Tyrod Taylor, Malik Willis, Marcus Mariota, Mitch Trubisky, right? All of them, I guess maybe Tyrod less, but the other three have established quarterbacks that aren't getting benched in front of them. But if they ever get hurt, these guys have an opportunity. And if they get starts, those are kind of like the rushing quarterbacks you might rather have. For now, because Pickett is kind of slated to be the starter right now, assuming Watson is unavailable for the year off the Achilles injury. I mean, what else do they have, right? They don't really have anyone else.
Yeah,
but the idea you're saying is they're probably going to draft someone. So.
It doesn't matter. Like, even if Kenny Pickett is the starter, I'm still ranking him like outside my top 32. I'm not going to want to play Kenny Pickett.
He's not a good touchdown producer. He's worse than Daniel Jones, because I've always complained about that with Daniel Jones. He doesn't produce enough touchdowns, and it's worse than that. So, and then again, that's why I have Daniel Jones ranked higher. At least Daniel Jones is fast and can run for some yards and give you like a safe floor. Like Pickett can't even really do that well.
Like if I had to guess, I'd probably put Pickett in my dynasty ranks as QB 64. It's because he's the very last backup that I actually want to have on my team.
That's fair. That does seem harsh, but I'll give you that. Like again, like a guy like Josh Dobbs. I know we're going to talk about that maybe next week, but in free agency, right? Like as a backup to the Patriots, you probably much prefer him, right?
Yeah, I'd have even Mac Jones doesn't have much rushing, but now he's in San Francisco. Desmond Ridder types.
Where even is Desmond Ridder? I don't have
Arizona, I believe. Still,
I don't even have him ranked. I've got 75 quarterbacks ranked on going for 2, and Desmond Ridder is not one of them. I don't know about that. I think Pickett's better than Desmond Ridder, because Ridder's problem is also he never accounted for a lot of touchdowns. But I think he's just far worse as a thrower. So that one, I would say that one's maybe a bit of an exaggeration.
How about Jacoby Brissett? There we go. I'd rather have him.
Where did he go?
I think he's Arizona.
No, you know that's what it is. That's why I'm not ranking Ridder, because like he's probably not even a backup. Ridder's completely useless. Like I'd imagine Brissett beats him out for the backup job. pretty easy.
Just not a fan of Kenny Pickett.
We're spending
Dynasty.
too much time on Kenny Pickett.
All right, let's move on.
Another
here.
quarterback trade. The Seahawks. I mean, we can talk about both the trades they made. Like they're cleaning house, and this is where the draft compensation actually gets a little better. So I'll just name both moves, and we can kind of address them both individually. So first off, the Seahawks traded away Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders, and in exchange, the Seahawks got a third-round pick this year. Again, if my research is correct, 92nd overall. So again, the Las Vegas Raiders get Geno Smith. Seattle Seahawks get a 2025 third, the 92nd overall pick. But they weren't done. Let's also go one step further, and the Seahawks traded away DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for a 2025 second. And this is the 52nd overall pick. So again, the Steelers get DK Metcalf. Seahawks get a 2025 second. So that's a second and a third for giving away both their franchise quarterback and their franchise wide receiver, Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. But we'll start with the quarterback and Geno Smith.
Yeah, it's a good move for the Raiders, I think. They got their bridge coach, and they're bringing in a bridge quarterback. And Dynasty, I would want Geno as my number 3 receiver, but if I had to play him as my number 2, I wouldn't be mad at it. I mean, he's got Brock Bowers. What's his name? Jacoby Myers ain't that bad. And I still think they're going to bring in another receiver to help him.
Plus, if the rumors are true that they're going to take Ashton Genty at like 5th overall, that's another pass catcher that you've added to that team too.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that.
A lot of mocks are kind of saying that, and it seems like a lot of NFL insiders are using the Geno Smith move as a reason to do that. Like they're kind of going all in, which is about as all in as you can if you're the Raiders. But like this signals a very win now move. I mean, Geno Smith's like what, 32? So
I think he's older than that.
Ideally, like it's the quarterback age that fits going for a guy like Genty that's so win now, just to try and make a playoff run with Geno Smith.
Geno's 34 and a half.
Oh my God, even older than I thought.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I think back to our first episode, we talked with the number 1 player at each position, and all three of us had Brock Bowers. I did throw the argument on Trey McBride. I think is pretty close and deserves to be in the conversation, but we chose that 2 weeks ago before Geno Smith signed. So we had no idea who his quarterback even was going to be. I think that was acknowledged too on the show. Like it almost can't get worse, and even if it is just Aiden O'Connell again, we at least saw that he'll pepper Bowers with enough high of a target share. But I got to imagine from a Bowers perspective, this is a positive because it's not an elite quarterback, but it's certainly a step up over Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. And I think they played Desmond Ridder last year. So you at least get a better level at quarterback play. And maybe Bowers not only replicates what he did last year, can even improve on that.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think Geno Smith, besides Dynasty, I know it's a Dynasty show, but for redraft, I'd probably slot him in at the QB 24 slot. If he gets another weapon at receiver, maybe I'll move him up a few spots. But I'd rather have Geno Smith over a guy like Bryce Young right now.
Ooh, interesting. I've got Bryce Young in Dynasty at QB 20, Geno Smith at 28.
Well, Dynasty a little different, yeah. I probably have the similar, but redraft, I'd have them both around that 24, 25 range.
And so I think, to me, I've got Geno at 28 and Matthew Stafford at 29. And, you can flip them up. Those are 2 guys that certainly in a redraft will move up probably into the top 20, both of them. But from a Dynasty perspective, we're downgrading them a little bit. One guy I have ahead of both is Anthony Richardson. So I don't know how you feel about that as a name.
Yeah, no, I think I have them above both of them in Dynasty and redraft just for that upside.
Sure. Redraft, actually, that makes sense because in redraft, like with Richardson, you're just taking the risk, and if it doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off. You just get another quarterback, or you move on to next year, right? Whereas in Dynasty, having to invest in Richardson, QB 27, I don't know how that feels for Richardson. That feels like that's low, but then you see the names ahead of him, and it's clearly I'd rather have all those other quarterbacks ahead of Richardson. So Geno is just, I think, because you mentioned 34, there's just that age is just a little too much for me. It would make me want to default to Richardson.
Yeah, for Dynasty, Richardson's outside my top 15, but above 20 in that area, just because he's got that upside. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it won't hurt me because I'm not buying him as a top 10 guy. He is working with Josh Allen now. And, Josh Allen, his rookie year, he had issues throwing the ball. So hopefully he helps Anthony Richardson kind of clean that up a little bit. And I also heard that Richardson is using that VR technology that Jaden Daniels used. So maybe that helps him a little bit.
I wonder if more quarterbacks are going to turn to that, just seeing the success. Like this wasn't like and like this is apparently something Daniels has done for years. Like this wasn't just something he decided to do all of a sudden.
Yeah,
seems to have really helped him. So I wonder if it's copycat league, the NFL, right? And I mean it's all about the big wide receiver contracts. And so from the we can move over to the second trade if you're ready to move on to talk about DK Metcalf to the Steelers. Right. What do you think about that?
Jeez, it didn't really make sense to me because Pickens and Metcalf, they're similar players, right? And like what they do, like toss it up, go down the field. So I mean, what are they going to do? Just put both of them on either side and just throw it to the left or the right, see who catches it. I still think Pickens has a chance to be traded away. Because I just don't see those two
that could be the draft day trade, not IU.
Yeah. I just don't see them being on the same team. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I would say the one reason it makes sense is those are the kind of passes you want to throw. You want a quarterback that is going to be very aggressive throwing downfield, and he's now has suddenly two options. To me, are the Steelers, because I felt this was such a weird offseason for the Steelers because they've done this trade, but they still haven't addressed the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what's weird.
I mean, they have, but meaningfully addressed the quarterback. I don't think Mason Rudolph counts. And all the talk was, it seemed like they were going to re-sign Fields. Like it seemed like that's where it was heading. And then the one kind of hesitation was they weren't going to fully commit to him as the starter. Like you still got to go earn it, and we're not going to rule out drafting a quarterback early, right? And so he didn't get the assurances he wanted from them, so that's why he chose the spot. We'll again talk about next week. I think is more with a plan for that. But you can go to the Steelers, and instead of like bringing back Wilson, it seemed like they were hinging on bringing back Fields, and suddenly they're kind of stuck. And now I wonder if they wish they had just decided we're going to bring back Wilson from the get-go. Is this move a pro Wilson move, right? Like you give him one of his favorite receivers he's ever thrown to in DK Metcalf, a guy like those two are good at connection together. And Wilson is the kind of quarterback that likes to throw it deep, likes to throw it to the outside, would in theory benefit from a system where Pickens and Metcalf exist together. You've got the right quarterback for that. I mean, the only other guy on the market I can think of, Jamie, is Jameis Winston. Is he the type of quarterback that would benefit from that type of style too? So
that would be so fun.
Because unfortunately with Rodgers, like Rodgers loves to throw to his slot receiver. Like that's why they moved Adams into the slot so much under Matt LaFleur. And so you don't really have that true slot receiver with the Steelers. It's
you
one
do.
Thing that Roman Wilson, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Roman Wilson is what hinges on Aaron Rodgers getting there, but not Russell Wilson. It's the non-Wilson receiver.
Also the thing with Rodgers, he's a snob, and he doesn't like throwing the ball to young wide receivers. And Roman Wilson, technically that would be his rookie year because he only played like one snap, not even.
Man, I've got a name for you, Jamie. Who's the one like rookie receiver that Rodgers went to immediately when he got there?
Randall Cobb?
No.
I
mean, Cobb's first year, he was their primary returner. Like that's how they used him more and eased him in. So like it wasn't a huge receiving year in 2011 for Cobb. I think it was more like his third year, 2013. They were dealing with injuries. I think that was the year that Greg Jennings left for the Vikings. Gross. Nelson got hurt. That's when Cobb really broke out as a receiver. The guy you hate, Romeo Doubs.
God, yeah.
His first NFL game, he led the Packers in targets. Like that was the dude that Rodgers said from an instant, I'm going to target you, because he came in as a developed route runner, right? So it depends on, I think is Roman Wilson a really good route runner? And if that's developed and the routes are detailed and precise, because that's Romeo Doubs' thing, is he will run the route exactly as it's designed to be. He's very predictable for a quarterback. That's why, especially early in the seasons, it seems like he has his best games because that's as a quarterback's trying to develop things. Okay, I know this guy's going to run the route and be exactly where I expect him to be on time. it's a fun thing for a quarterback. And then as the quarterback grows confidence, then they can kind of improvise more. Dobbs doesn't have the elite athleticism that like everyone else in that receiving core seems to have between Reed, Watson, and Wicks. I know that's why you're a big fan of Wicks, but just to throw a jab at Romeo Dobbs for you, I know how much you hate the guy, but like in theory, that's what Rodgers wants if Wilson's a good route runner. But all to say, it's tough to have super confidence in this Pickens Metcalf thing if they don't have a good quarterback, because that's where it could just be a complete disaster. So I'm really hesitant on ranking either highly right now. Pickens is younger. Should he be ranked higher in Dynasty than Metcalf? Or what Metcalf's produced enough that we still should rank him higher? What do you think?
Well, they produce similarly, honestly, hasn't they? Besides, if you take out Metcalf's second year, I believe he was top 10, but since then, he hasn't hit the top 20, right? Pickens, I believe he's between that 20 to 30 range. So with the 3-year difference, I would put Pickens a few spots, probably like 4 or 5 spots ahead of him.
So I don't know what this here. Let me check here. I'm going to check Fantasy Pros rankings
for Dynasty, like redraft. Yeah. I think I'm going to go after Metcalf first.
Okay, but Pickens is young enough in Dynasty because right now I've got Metcalf like 3 spots higher than Pickens. They're both outside the top 30 for me because I am pretty hesitant. Yeah, so just looking at Metcalf, he had in full PPR, he had 4 straight top 20 seasons. That you mentioned his second year in the NFL, he had 1,300 receiving yards, still a career high. He finishes the wide receiver 6. After that, wide receiver 13, wide receiver 15, wide receiver 19. Right. So last year was a down year for him as JSN kind of started to emerge more. Whereas Pickens has, year 2, he was wide receiver 22. Yeah, that 1,000-yard season. I'm still, like I said, right now I still have Metcalf higher than Pickens because I expect him to be the alpha. Like Pickens is going to have to cede targets to Metcalf. Both, I think, will draw a huge target share on that team because, the next best competition is probably Pat Freiermuth. And he's not really a huge target earner, is what the hype says. Like 19% in 2022 is the best for Freiermuth, but he's had 2 years below 14% as well in his career. So, like, he's not a, Dalton Schultz essentially, right? He might get you 16%. Like that could be where we see for that. But yeah, I would say let's leave. Well, actually, no. Let's address this.
Real quick, fun fact: George Pickens, he's got that dog factor in him. Like, he's
but doesn't Metcalf though? Like, isn't Metcalf a dog kind of guy?
Yeah, but Metcalf doesn't have Bo Jackson blood running through him.
Is Pickens related to Bo Jackson?
Bo Jackson is Kenny Pickett's great uncle. Well,
how does that help George Pickens?
Because they got the same blood running through them.
You just said Kenny Pickett, though. I'm just.
Oh, Pickens, yeah.
That made more sense when Pickett and Pickens were teammates. Now they're not anymore. Maybe George Pickens gets traded to the Browns. That's how they end up with the.
Yeah, let's not do that. I don't want to ruin George Pickens' career.
That Hunter contract.
That's Daniel Hunter, I believe.
Daniel Hunter. Okay, who did he go to?
I believe he's on the Texans. He agreed to like 36 million something extension through the next 2 years.
That was
don't quote me on that, but it sounds familiar.
Looks like a 1 year. What? $35.6 million contract extension.
Ooh, yeah, that's crazy. That's insane.
Interesting. Which is weird because, he was still under contract, right? So this is this like next year? Like they're putting him an extra year, so he won't be a free agent at the end of this year, right? So like you might be like that cap hit is maybe split in half from both years.
Well,
he would be eligible because this would be his last year of his contract, so he's eligible to be extended, and they kind of just extended him.
So he is contracted all the way through 2026.
Okay, so this
for the next 2 years.
So this $35 million really is like most of it's going to be on next year's cap.
Yeah, to 2026. Yep.
You might be able to move some of it to this year if you wanted to, the signing bonus, but
this year I think it's like 30 million.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know the details, but
so anyway, Heisman family saying that Hunter contract was wild, way too much money for a 1 year deal on a team that isn't winning a championship this season.
They're going for the playoffs, though.
I mean, they've won a playoff game each of the last 2 years, and frankly,
Exactly.
like that part of the defense worked, right? Him and Will Anderson is like two edge rushers, opposite sides. Like that was they kind of fed off each other. They believe they both had double-digit sacks last year, so it certainly that aspect worked. Man, Hunter's been just a great pass rusher the whole time. Like I was so happy to see him leave Minnesota. Like that was a headache I did not want the Packers to have to deal with anymore as a Packers. But yeah, thanks for that. I honestly had no idea, so thank you for the news update, Heisman.
Yeah, sorry, we're not an IDP show, but we do have IDP content over at the Fantasy Six Pack.
Great plug for the site. Yes, Fantasy Six Pack. So check out the website. We also have a Discord as well, so all sorts of great content there.
So are we all done with the trades, or is there anything else going on?
I was just about to transition over to wide receiver contracts, sticking with the Seahawks now, because I think this is a good. What's going to happen with the Seahawks? And I mean, the one guy we're going to talk about more next week is Sam Darnold signing there, but they also, they replace Geno Smith with Sam Darnold, and they also made another free agent signing here by signing Cooper Kupp to a 3-year, $45 million contract. So replacing, and I think they also signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So they're essentially replacing DK Metcalf with Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett with MVS, which both seem like downgrades. And then Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. Based on last year, it's an upgrade, but based on everything else Darnold's done in his career, it's definitely a downgrade. So, what do you think of the Seahawks after like the totality of these moves?
This just blows my mind because DK going to Steelers. All right, you got two guys that do the same exact thing, Metcalf and Pickens, and then they're bringing in Kupp. Like him and JSN do the same exact thing. So what are they going to do? Like play in a slot together?
Well, and that's interesting, Jamie, because I do wonder if this move hurts JSN because now they're going to play him on the outside. So that seems like it signals that's how they want to approach it.
Well, the thing is, like JSN, he can play on the outside. Last year, I believe he had 75% of snaps in the slot. He thrived there. He does have the ability to play on the outside. He did it in Ohio State. I believe he was top 5 in I think air yards or deep targets. So they were still targeting him pretty dang deep. So I wonder if this actually helps him to move on the outside to get those Metcalf targets along with playing in the slot. I mean, not as much, that 75%. Maybe they do a 50-50, 40-60. But it could open up more for JSN. So I love JSN. He is going to be a top 12 receiver in my eyes this year.
And I've been kind of struggling with his ranking. I think when we talked about our top 2 tiers, the top 8 pretty locked in. So once you start to get to wide receiver 9, you can kind of start to even make arguments. I think he's in that tier. Currently, I have him at wide receiver 14, right behind 2 of the rookies from last year. Right, Marvin Harrison at 13 and Ladd McConkey at 12. So I don't know what you think of that when you hear that. JSN Dynasty wide receiver 14.
Well, I got McConkey over JSN, but I got Marvin Harrison below JSN, and they're all back to back to back.
Okay, so that seems like the range. Just behind them is Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Devontae Smith.
Yeah, and then you got to put T. Higgins up there, I believe.
I've got Higgins at 20. He's kind of coming in there, and I think that's where you might start to see some of the rookies come into. Is right around that range.
Yeah, Rashid Rice possibly.
Yep, Rice is 22 for me.
So yeah, Garrett Wilson's right in that McConkey, JSN, and Harrison.
I kind of like Wilson's situation with Fields better than JSN having to play on the outside with Darnold. So that's a guy that I've kind of raised up Wilson to inside the top 10 now in Dynasty. And I wonder if JSN's kind of the guy that's coming at that expense. If they had done things differently, not bring in Kupp and keep JSN in the slot, maybe he's wide receiver 10.
Yeah.
So I don't love this from his perspective. I don't hate it either. I still think he's the alpha target getter. He's a young receiver. We love the talent. And I mean, he believes in his ability to be more than just a slot receiver. Supposedly that was one of the big things. Everyone remembers the Super Bowl a couple years ago, a Bears podcast interviewing him about Shane Waldron becoming the Bears offensive coordinator. And what can you say about him that's nice, and like struggled to just say he's a nice person. That's all he had, right? Like I don't dislike him as a human, but man, I think one of the things JSN's kind of come out and clarified, he did not like the role Waldron put him in. Everything was short, all the targets underneath. Because sometimes you could be a slot receiver and still go deep. I think we started to see that last year.
Well, JSN did it, yeah.
And I think he believes in his confidence that he can be a deep receiver. He can catch passes downfield. So he certainly has the confidence to think he can thrive on the outside.
Yeah, and then we're banking on Darnold. Switching teams, going to a different offense. He did pretty all right last year. Who was his top two receivers? Addison, right?
And Justin Jefferson.
And they both did all right. I mean, if you
a long way from that, and like, I think JSN is more comparable to Jordan Addison than he is Jefferson. So to me, like, this is a step back from Darnold's perspective. Like, this is not as good a situation. Plus, you don't have Kevin O'Connell. You've got who's the Seahawks just switched offensive coordinator too, so it's first time OC.
Kubiak.
Finn Kubiak. Okay, not a first time OC, but
he was with the 49ers. I believe he was with the
Saints too.
Saints, right? Yeah. So I mean, he's got that type of offense where I think they're just gonna pound it down their throat, run like 30 times a game, and they just. I think the first move that Clint made when he went there was they signed a fullback. So that right there makes me think they're going to run a lot. And that's why I'm higher on Walker than most people.
Same. Yeah. Where do I have Walker? I think I've got Walker at Dynasty RB7.
Dynasty 7. Oh, geez. Dang.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not one of those people you have him higher than. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm higher on him than most, and I think I have him at like somewhere between 13 to 14, 15 in that area.
If Amari and Hampton right now, he's my RB10. If he gets a good enough landing spot, he probably jumps into that top 7.
Yeah, no, I'm higher on Hampton than you.
Walker, James Cook, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, Chase Brown, they're all rookie contract guys. And I mean, I don't know. I kind of like Walker more than the rest.
So, spoiler alert, I don't know. We're probably going to talk about this another show, but I have 4 rookies right now inside my top 10 Dynasty running backs.
Considering this class, that I probably should be a little higher on the other rookies. Like, maybe I am waiting too much for the draft. Maybe I should be ranking Hampton higher and, the other guys. Anyway, that's a couple weeks from now. We'll talk running backs. But with Kupp leaving the Rams, there's a vacancy there. Actually, it's funny. There wasn't, because they actually made the signing before they released Cooper Kupp, but Devontae Adams comes into the Rams on a 2-year, $46 million contract. So got the same amount of money as Kupp, but on a 2-year deal as opposed to Kupp getting a 3-year deal. So the average is averaging $23 million a year. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention was the fact that not only did the Steelers trade for Metcalf, they extended him. Massive contract. Actually, maybe I should have said that after this as we get to the Bengals. But we'll talk the AFC North. A lot of money being spent at receivers. So Adams, I mean, $23 million isn't. It's good money, but we've seen bigger money this offseason. But still, what do you think of this move for the Rams?
I think it's amazing. I love it for Adams. I love it for Puka. People might say, "Oh, well, Adams is going to take away from Puka." Well, no, he's not, because. I think I brought it up last show where Puka only had like 10 red zone targets all year.
He missed half a season, so
yes, but that's what Adams thrives at. Adams is that red zone threat. I think it was top 5 in red zone targets last year
with Aaron Rodgers. To be fair.
With Aaron Rodgers, but I mean Matthew Stafford, right? It's probably going to be similar.
Yeah, you'd be smart to use him in the red zone. That is one of his skill sets, is just scoring touchdowns.
Exactly.
Separation.
I think this could hurt Kyron Williams' touchdowns a little bit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm not.
You'll always take the negative Kyron Williams take, but this one does make sense as the Kyron Williams truther.
Yep. So I still think Adams will get 8 to 10 touchdowns. Puka's still going to get like 4 to 5 probably, but Puka's going to, I think he was wide receiver 2 points per game.
4 or 5 touchdowns like that.
That's not that much, but he's going to get the receptions because last year he only got 4 or 5.
Again, half a season, right?
Half a season, but points per game, he was still wide receiver 2.
Yeah, he had 4. You're right. He had 4 catches or 4 touchdowns, 6 the year before. So you're okay. Yeah, you know what? I would have thought he was more of a touchdown producer than that. I think he probably, based on his yards, I think he underproduces his touchdowns 2 years in a row. So eventually the pendulum will swing for him to overproduce his touchdown numbers. But to your point, maybe that's not this year with Adams.
Yeah, I think they're going to complement each other very well. So I want both of them on a team. And with Stafford, I mean, you had him down in the 28, 30 range, right?
Yeah, I think 29 is where I have him at QB.
I think he could be underrated this year, just with those 2 guys.
No, he definitely could. And I think, like, let's say the Rams trade away Stafford and it's Aaron Rodgers that comes in. I think that maybe hurts Puka more because he's been prone to, I'll ignore Wilson to a certain extent. You can completely ignore him, but Adams is the guy I'm peppering with targets. Like, I think with Stafford, he knows what he has in Nakua, and that's not going to go away. And we saw last year how much they could give in the last 2 seasons, how many targets they can give to Nakua and to Cooper Kupp. There's not much else there. We'll talk about, I guess, some smaller signings, some smaller wide receiver moves for the Rams, but that is where a lot of their targets are going to be concentrated on. Those 2, similar to what we're saying with the Steelers and Metcalf and Pickens. There's not much else of a third option.
Yeah, I mean, give them
third option. So
those 2 players are going to take up more than 50% of the targets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so. I think that's and I think that's what it's been with Puka and Kupp the last couple of years. Again.
Yep. Like
the stats are skewed last year with like Nakua missing most, actually even Kupp too, but the games they played, it certainly felt like it was that.
Well, let me say 60%. Maybe both get
sure that actually, like, you say that and that seems so crazy, but then this is the guy that will do that. Like, Stafford's the guy that will just hyper target his top 2 guys.
Exactly.
He did it with Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate when that was a thing. He did with Calvin Johnson and whoever else before Golden Tate got there.
And then even last year, they both got 29 to 30% targets. So
can definitely make that work again. So Now, big Bengals Bucks, just because alliterations are always awesome. But yes, the AFC North spending big on wide receiver money. So first off, this T. Higgins was supposed to get a franchise tag, and I think the franchise tag was going to be $26 million. So, but they had until July to find a long-term extension. They didn't even hit the NFL draft, and so they made it work. So Higgins' contract now is a 4-year, $115 million deal, $28.75 million average. So getting more than what he would have with the franchise tag. So good negotiating there for Higgins. Now the Metcalf contract actually was even more. 4 years, $132 million. So big money being spent in the AFC North. $33 million average per year, which, like, 2 years ago, that would have made him the highest paid receiver. But now, that's Jamar Chase. 4 years, $161 million, $40.25 million, the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Just $250,000 per year more than Myles Garrett, just to say, right? And Chase has been very transparent. Like, whatever the highest is, I'm going just above that. So he lived through his promise. But we've talked a lot about Metcalf. I just thought I'd add, like, those are the 3 big eye-popping contracts for wide receivers. Yeah. So Adams pales in comparison a little bit to that. But what do you think of the Bengals and having both your guys locked up long term?
That's what they wanted. Joe Burrow wanted both of them. I know Higgins and Chase wanted to stay together. Chase's contract, very well deserved. Bravo for him. He's going to be top guy the rest of his career. Higgins, I love him. He could have got franchise tag, but someone else could have matched it, right? He could have been gone if they franchise tagged him. So
yeah, I think It might have been the non-exclusive tag.
It was, yeah. It was a non-exclusive, so someone could have matched it. And
I think, someone could have had it, and the Bengals, I think, have the right to match it. So if someone signed to a contract, they could have just said, okay, we're gonna sign you to that. So I think they had that option potentially. I think it's what we saw with the Ravens a couple years ago with Lamar Jackson. Ultimately, it was more a tool to, okay, you don't believe that this is what teams like. You think teams are going to pay you way more, but go explore. It's your chance to explore, and then we'll kind of, oh yeah, we'll still pay you $50 million per year anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Eventually they settled.
So you mentioned that Metcalf got paid what, $5 million more, I believe,
per year than
Higgins. Higgins. That makes me think Higgins took a pay cut to stay with the Bengals because he deserves more than Metcalf. He's a better receiver in my eyes. He could have been a number one receiver on a lot of teams, but he chose to stay with the team, and this just makes me think they're going to be going for a championship, and they're going to come pretty dang close.
Well, last year they came pretty dang close to making the playoffs, so that's the first step. But we certainly have seen them capable of going that far with these main pieces: Higgins, Chase, and of course Joe Burrow. Which, I mean, we all talked about last week. All three of us considered him the QB5 in Dynasty. This certainly doesn't change it. By locking them in so long, like both of them on 4-year contracts, like does that raise Burrow to the top tier? Or are we still thinking he's the best tier 2 quarterback?
I'm thinking I might put him above Jalen Hurts.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's going to be razor thin. But yeah, no, Burrow, if he can stay healthy, you got to think of their defense too. It's going to be weak, so they're going to be scored on a lot. So that means they're going to be needing to pass the ball more, and they'll probably address the defense in the draft just because they're running out of money and they need those cheap rookie contracts. But still, there's going to be a bunch of young guys on that defense, and I can see 35 to 40 games every single week. Except when you play the Browns, it'll be like 40 to 3. But
yeah, no, but I mean, I think right now, if we had to pick who's going to lead the NFL in passing attempts,
Burrow.
We'd probably say Burrow, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yep.
They had a huge pass rate last year. They're keeping the same offense. I know they changed defensive coordinators, but essentially the offense we expect to remain intact. And so
if you're playing in a best ball league right now, you could essentially, if you have the 101, you can take Jamar Chase. T. Higgins can go at the 212. And then
Burrow in the third.
Burrow, I've gotten in the 5th round.
Okay, yeah, the next
single quarterback league. So you can essentially lock all 3 of them up. But what if one gets hurt? Like what it's going to be tough.
I mean, that's the risk of best ball, right? Like anyone can get hurt, right? So you're not worried about the downside. You're always, what's the highest upside chance? And it honestly, JB, it did seem like I saw that a lot last year, just watching best ball content. People trying that chase and then come around with Higgins and almost take Burrow immediately. And but yeah, you're right. You might not have to because of guys like Jaden Daniels is still existing. And I was curious. I pulled up the NFL wide receiver contracts for highest average salary. And Metcalf is 4th. So the only ones higher are Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. Those are the 3 guys we all consider the top 3 in the NFL and also in Dynasty. So like kind of a ceiling there, right? Like, okay, no one else outside those 3 is really going to pass that. Higgins is 9th. So, you got AJ Brown 5th, Amon-Ra St. Brown 6th, Ayuk and Hill are tied for 7th. They're both at 30 million exactly. So Higgins coming in just behind that. You feel like that's in the right range, anywhere between 33 million and 28.7 million, like he had, that feels like where Higgins belongs. And like you said, he's on maybe the lower side. Like he could have maybe pushed to that 33 million, like Metcalf could have. But maybe if you also have a receiver on the team making 40 million, it's tough to have a second $30 million receiver, right? So it's also maybe the context of knowing. I know Burrow's getting paid lots, Chase is getting paid lots, so I don't necessarily need to make max dollar, but I still want to get paid pretty heavily as a top 10 receiver in the NFL. So, but yes, I think Anything else on the Bengals?
No, it's just I'm jealous being a Browns fan. I should have. I wish I was born 3 hours south from here.
Enough past the line where we're closer to Cincinnati. We got to be Bengals fans. I mean, they have. Here's the thing: the Browns actually have. I think it's.
You're cutting out, but yeah, no.
Seven
it would have been
professional
nice
championships
being a
or
Bengals
8.
fan instead of a Browns fan.
I think they have. I think the Browns have 4 NFL championships. I know they have some in the old league they were in before they were in the NFL.
If you got the old league, I think we have 8.
I think it's 8. Yeah, I think because they dominated that old league.
Yep.
Autogram days, right? So the Bengals have nothing. The Bengals don't have a single championship in their history. So at least the Browns have that. Now it's been since
that was before I was born.
64,
yeah.
64, I think was the last Browns championship. So
that's 20 years later I was born. So
I mean, I still hate the Lions for something that happened in 1962. So
yeah, I know this.
I'm just so petty. But yeah, I think we can move on.
All right.
To wide receiver contracts. We'll talk about the cover guy. Our thumbnail image for this week was Chris Godwin. So coming in with returning to the Buccaneers. So like the Bengals guys keeping in the same place, a 3-year, $66 million contract. So $22 million average. So right behind where Devontae Adams was, which makes sense. That kind of dominant receiver. And like Adams, we kind of expect him to potentially be the number 1, but most likely the number 2 on the team. I wonder if Godwin actually has a better chance to usurp Evans as the number 1. He certainly seemed like he was doing that early last year.
Yes.
Whereas I think it's going to be tough for Adams to usurp Puka when Nakua has that chemistry with Stafford.
Yeah, 100%. Last year, before Godwin got hurt, he was the number 1 overall. Well, technically number 2 overall. He got hurt, and in that game, week 7, if he would have finished that game in week 7, he would have been the number 1 overall through 7 weeks. But he was only a half a point behind Jamar Chase for the overall wide receiver 1. He was seeing like top 12 targets. I can just see it again where, Mike Evans is going to get his 1,000 yards. He'll get his touchdowns, but the rest of it's going to go to Godwin. He's going to see targets like at least 9, 10, maybe even more per game, double-digit targets per game. That's what he's been doing pretty much his whole career. I also think this hurts Jalen McMillan. People were excited about Jalen McMillan. 3 years. Now you got to wait 3 years.
And really, McMillan only broke out after Godwin got hurt.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
So you're fighting as the 3rd receiver, and McMillan played a lot in the slot. If they want to keep Godwin in that role, he also might struggle to see time on the field. They might opt for maybe 2 wide receiver sets, and he's not on the field also. Because when they do decide to do that, Godwin will then move to the outside. So it's unless they decide we're going to just play Godwin primarily on the outside, maybe that's the avenue to get McMillan in. Maybe they're thinking that's how we get our 3 best receivers on the field. But even when that happens, McMillan's probably not going to be the favorite target. It's going to be Evans or Godwin.
Yeah, no, Godwin plays the majority of his snaps in the slot, at least 60%. And I don't know. I think your time to sell McMillan high was already passed. Now that they signed Godwin to a 3-year,
sure.
I think you just have to hold him and wait for an injury to Godwin, or I don't know.
Now, here's the thing. I've got Metcalf a little bit higher than Godwin. Like I've got Godwin at 43. Do you think he should be in that tier where Metcalf is?
For Dynasty?
Yeah.
Well, I think you got about 2 years left, because obviously when his last year of his contract, he'll be 30, 32?
Maybe 31?
30.
But yeah. No, you might be right.
Because how old is he now? 28 or 29?
I will look right now. 29. He is 29 right now. So
29.
You're right.
Yeah. So
whereas Metcalf, you got I guess Metcalf's 27. So you got those 2 years difference, right? Is that enough to? Because I guess it is for me, because I do have Metcalf again a little bit ahead of Godwin.
I mean, I got Godwin. Shit, I want to say maybe 10 spots below Metcalf,
I'm
just
I'm
just
about
because
that.
of the age.
I think I'm 8 spots lower, but yeah, it's
But you
like
got to remember this is
here's the thing.
dynasty. Yeah.
I have Mike Evans ahead of Metcalf. So like I'm kind of still thinking that like Evans is just this unreal producer that just keeps producing even at his advanced age. So I don't know if that's where the flaw in my rankings is if I'm too high on Evans as well.
Yeah, I think you might be a little too high on Evans. I put
To
Evans
be,
in.
to
I
be
put
fair,
Evans in
like what
Godwin.
you're kind of convincing me that maybe Evans should be closer to Godwin, and like Godwin really does have a chance to be the number one receiver.
Like, yeah, I think I
So,
got Godwin wide receiver 37. I might
okay.
even raise him up a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I'm
Uh,
43 right now, and that does kind of feel like I'm a little too low. So yeah,
and right now I'm looking Evans 39, which is 2 spots below. But I also want to put those guys like Jerry Judy, Alec Manor, people like that above him just because they're younger.
yeah, I've got Judy inside the top 30. I'm pretty
Mhm.
like I know they don't have a quarterback right now, but I figure like whoever they get will be good enough to target Judy a ton. So maybe I'm a little optimistic on Judy.
Mhm.
There you go. Some
Uh,
optimism for a Browns player. Who would have thought?
like I think Godwin should be above Sutton.
Okay, interesting.
They're about the same age.
Well, that's like I've got him right in range with Evans. So like so yeah. I think yeah, right now Godwin outside the top 40 does feel like I'm too low on him. So I've got to figure out I'll have to work on these rankings and figure out where he belongs. That so Roma Dunze, Jameson Williams, Jalen Waddle, that's right around wide receiver 30. And it feels like after
Oh,
that, that's where it gets like it's a big gap there from Evans all the way down to like a Calvin Ridley, like you said, Ao Manor at 48, right? Like that's to me, wide receiver 32 to 48 almost feels like there's some old guys in there. There's some young guys, some really productive old guys, some really high end young guys. That's a huge tier where maybe
so
I'm struggling a little bit with those rankings.
why do you hate Odunze so much? You said 30.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe I
You know
just
he's
hate
only
Caleb
like
Williams.
22, right?
I know.
And
Maybe I just hate Caleb
he's gonna
Williams too
take
much.
over that number one spot.
Oh, I've got him ahead of DJ Moore. Like he is the number one ranked Bears receiver. So I mean, that's an example of a guy where I've got Jerry Judy ahead of him. I've got Jaden Reed ahead of him. I think if we're done here talking about Godwin, I've
Yeah,
got the next guy we're going to talk about, Khalil Shakir, ahead
I
of
love Shakur. Yes.
Wednesday. Well, and clearly so do the Bills. They gave him a 4-year, $60.2 million extension, so 15.05 per year. That's Cooper Cup's average, but on an extra
Yeah.
year, which I mean he's younger, so that makes sense that he's getting a 4-year contract. At the same time, the Bills want to shout out the Canadian here. Made sure to wear the Canadian hat because I knew we were talking about a Canadian player today. Josh Palmer, a 3-year, $36 million contract, $12 million average to stay with the Bills. So my quick takeaway, Jamie, and I talked about this on Monday on the Absolute Auction podcast.
I
I
saw
kind
that.
of
That
think,
was a great episode.
thank you. Yeah, those guys do great. I love auctions,
With
so I love what they do.
Ryan Miner does great
Yeah,
work.
you do. All of them are great.
Mhm.
One thing I mentioned is they're both winners. Palmer is a winner because I mean he went from the Chargers, which is a great quarterback. He also gets a great quarterback with Josh Allen, but his
Yes.
role might expand to that true deep down the field receiver. Like it feels like Allen's been more willing to go downfield than Herbert's been. So is this a quarterback that's going to use Palmer for his skill set more? That Gabe Davis kind of role, right? Only maybe less hype, so he'll be cheaper. And when he produces like Gabe Davis, you won't be complaining because he didn't spend as much as he did on Gabe Davis. So that's the beauty of Palmer there. But Shakir's the winner because they didn't bring in anyone better than Palmer. Like if they had went and brought in another, if they went and got Devontae Adams, that maybe hurts Khalil Shakir. But the way I see it, he got 100 targets last year, and the Bills made it to the AFC Championship. They don't have an incentive to not go to Shakir because it worked and they were winning games doing it. So I think Palmer's great because his role is going to maybe increase to what it was with the Chargers. But to me, Shakir just maintains his role, which is why I like having him inside the
Yeah.
top 30. Currently, my wide receiver 26 in Dynasty.
Oh, I love that rank. I love this move for Palmer because I think last year he wasn't really involved much. Maybe like 3-4 targets a game.
I mean, especially early, they were so run heavy. Like they're just
Yeah.
all the targets went to McConkey and no one else because there was so little volume.
I know last year the Bills tried to address this spot in the draft, drafting Keon Coleman, but Keon Coleman isn't the answer.
Are you thinking Palmer comes in and usurps him and has more targets than Coleman?
100%. Yes, 100%. Because Coleman wasn't that good. He only got like 2-3 targets a game, if that, right?
It seemed like Coleman's best skill set is red zone jump ball stuff, whereas Palmer's the true deep threat. Like he is someone you want to run on deep routes,
and he can run
not necessarily Coleman. It's not the deep routes with Coleman. It's the I can body guys in the short areas. I can get you first downs and touchdowns. So it feels like maybe they wanted Coleman to be their future Gabe Davis, and he doesn't quite operate the same way Davis does. I think Palmer fits that role.
Yeah, and I love this move for Palmer. I remember last year, I think I traded a late third for Palmer.
That was pretty attainable to get him usually, yeah.
Yeah, late third. Didn't really use him all year because he wasn't that great. So I was kind of disappointed in that trade. But now that he's on the Bills, I'm loving it.
I had him at the tail end of a rookie contract in a salary cap contract league. Now he's a free agent, so now I might actually go out and spend on him in the auction.
Yeah, he's been in the league for what, 5 years?
Well, this will be year 5. Like this
will be year 5, and he's only 20. He's only 25 years old.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Now, again, the Chargers could have taken Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they drafted Palmer instead. I don't know if you've watched receiver, but Amon-Ra lists all of them. So there's a lot of receivers that are worse than Palmer in that list. As a Packers fan, I remember they took Amari Rodgers. So like some of those teams missed, but didn't miss as bad as others. Like Daz Newsome, the Titans actually took Daz Newsome ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. When he said that name on the documentary, I freaked out. Like, man, I remember that dude. Like, I remember him because he did nothing. He was a high drafted receiver that did literally nothing. But I forgot he existed. I forgot he was one of the dudes that went ahead of Amon-Ra. When he said that name, I just burst out laughing. Like, man, there were some awful ones. Daz Newsome's pretty bad. Man, why are we talking about Daz Newsome on this show? This is Josh Palmer's moment.
But I think Josh Palmer could be a guy that you could still go out and buy really, really cheap for even a 4th rounder, late 3rd.
Yeah.
Just a guy for your wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7 spot as a plug and play that can get you points.
Do you worry that this is not a good time to buy him because the Bills might still address wide receiver in the draft?
No, I don't think they're going to because they signed Palmer, they signed Shakur, they have Coleman
still.
They have Kincaid that could play slot, and they still have Dawson Knox, right? So I think they're set at the receiving core.
But because Coleman was so bad, do they want to re-roll that? And do they think they can get better than Coleman? And that really kills his value. But that's the only hesitation I have to buy Palmer now. Could he be even more attainable and cheaper post-draft if they draft somebody? And if they don't draft anybody, I don't see his price skyrocketing. He won't suddenly be worth a second if they don't draft anybody.
I think they'd be better off going to get some kind of a running back to complement James Cook.
I mean, in this year's class, they should take a running back. Yeah. I mean, they probably wouldn't go early, I would think.
No, a third round, 4th round guy.
I would say even a 5th, 6th. But do you just fill the other positions, your trenches? You're just getting offensive and defensive line depth and just continuing to have depth at those positions? Is that something they should focus their early picks on? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the Bills probably don't have any clear needs to the point where they can just go best player available at every single pick and they feel like they're getting a value and that player will have a role. That's probably the smart way to approach it. They shouldn't be pigeonholing any picks to positions.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the Bills play without a elite wide receiver and still put up a bunch of points
last year.
Yeah,
run it back, and I mean, we'll be happy with the few pieces that are there. It'll be super concentrated.
Yep.
All right, so Palmer got the exact same contract as Darius Slayton, re-signing with the Giants again. This so 3 years, $36 million, $12 million average. The guarantees might be a little different between the two, but they essentially got similar contracts. It's funny. That's that's the archetype of Gabe Davis. It feels like Darius Slayton's that pure deep threat for the Giants. like the Steelers, though, who's their quarterback? So that's the concern there. Based on their contracts, like with even contracts, I think we'd much rather invest in Palmer because of that offense. Josh Allen tied to that quarterback as opposed to, are the Giants drafting a rookie? Are they bringing in Rodgers or Wilson or Winston?
I don't know. I was hoping Slayton. He is an underrated wide receiver. He's just never had a quarterback to throw to him. So I was hoping he would go somewhere else besides the Giants. So he could be relevant. But right now, we can't really say if he's going to get more than 10 to 15% of targets. Who's going to be the quarterback? Like if they bring in Jameis Winston, yeah, gunslinger down that field, maybe.
And like, because to me, I still view Wan'Dale Robinson as the wide receiver too. What he's earned from a target share each year of his career, like it's clearly ahead of Darius Slayton. Winston's the type of quarterback that might not target Wan'Dale that much and might choose to go to Darius Slayton. So that might be the only edge. But like, I still view him as the wide receiver 3 on a team that's not a strong offense without a good quarterback. So I like Slayton as well, but he's not really someone I'm looking to go. Like even giving up a third for him still seems like much. Like I feel like I can do something else with that third, even if
Slayton is a guy that would be on the bubble in dynasty leagues to actually just drop off your roster if it's not that deep.
Like I've got him at wide receiver 82, whereas Palmer's inside. Like Palmer's 66 right now, which actually is behind Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's 61. So you're going to say that I should clearly flip those two, but yeah. Yeah. So yes, that's Slayton. Just want to end here with how many? There's 6 wide receivers I want to talk about that got 1-year contracts. So starting with Marquise Brown and the Chiefs, he got $11 million on a 1-year deal. And based on how such a limited sample size, where we had one game in the preseason, he got hurt, and then we have like the end of season and playoffs. It seemed like he was kind of acting like that wide receiver 2, number 2 target on the team, really like equaling Kelsey, like really like it was kind of Worthy was taking over at the end of the year. And that type of deep threat offense, we like that from Mahomes in the past. So Brown, I think, does see a role here.
Yeah, especially if Rashee Rice gets a suspension of any kind for like 4 or 5, 6 games, whatever it is.
I mean, Worthy could get a suspension. I mean, Rice is still rehabbing from the knee injury, right? Like
I thought Worthy was cleared. That was a fake.
Well, report. He wasn't charged, but just because he wasn't charged doesn't mean it didn't happen. I don't know. Like
I heard it was a fake report. And
okay. Well, regardless, I mean,
but no,
if it was a totally fake report, then you're right. Then nothing will come of it. But even if he wasn't charged, but something still happened, like the NFL could still discipline. Like there's been players that haven't gotten legal repercussions that have been suspended by the NFL. So it's possible there. I still think the Rice knee injury, though, like we still don't know for sure what his timeline is, what kind of shape he's going to be coming back. So Brown could be a really good, like you play him, if you get him, play him early in the season as things are still trying to get figured out as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him in the past. He did pretty good. I don't know how much exposure I would want to him, but there is a case where he could be like a top 40, like a plug and play guy here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, from Mahomes, if you get 20 to, I don't know, let's just say 15 to 20% target share, that could be 10, 15 points.
Yeah, 15 seems like a reasonable target share. He's someone I would doubt would get to 20, because as much as we think Kelsey's older, he's still going to command enough targets. Like Mahomes will still go to him at a certain designated amount. But I've got a decision involving Marquise Brown. So what is my contract on him? So I'm in a salary cap contract league. I've got 2 years left of Marquise Brown, 17 million, and then 18.5 million next year. I cut him before the auction, 3 days before the auction. I cut those cap hits in half each of those years. So I could save myself $8.5 million by cutting him. So it's one of those where my current cap space is 96 million. Some teams are up in the 120s. Like, is that 8 million worth it or not? Right now, I'm kind of leaning just keep him. It's a little expensive, but I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with that 8 million. Like, if he was available as a free agent, that's probably what he's going for. So, like, unless if I really don't want him, I cut him. But I kind of like the spot on the Chiefs enough that I think I'm going to keep him. So that kind of gives an idea of like what I'm thinking specifically in a league where I have Marcus Brown.
Yeah, that I would keep him. I'm not too familiar with salary cap leagues, but it sounds like a pretty decent deal because who else are you going to get?
Yeah, who's that 8 million I save? What's that going to win me? Does it win me a receiver as good as Marquise Brown? I mean, maybe I get lucky and get two guys cheap for that price, but
and let's say Rice gets suspended and Worthy gets hurt. There you go, Marquise Brown, 25% target share right there, right?
Yeah, and I mean the unfortunate thing is I'm going to have to make this decision. I think the auction. I don't think we have an auction date set yet, but usually it's June or July, so I'm going to have to make that decision by then. I won't get tons of information, but yeah, right now I am leaning towards keeping him because I do like the situation. But yeah, two receivers got $10 million exactly. One of them is re-signing Tutu Atwell with the Rams, and then Dyami Brown joining the Jaguars.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Atwell kind of operates, I think, as the number 3 receiver, but he's so far away from Adams and Puka that it like okay, he's number 3 receiver on a team that does love to run that 11 personnel a lot. Is Tutu the designated slot receiver, and those guys are getting the outside targets? Or do they want to put Puka in the slot and use Atwell as a field stretcher? I mean, it's probably going to be a bit of both. Like you're probably not just going to be stale with one formation. I don't know.
I mean, I don't see Tutu being a major factor. He's more like gadget player type, stretch the field. They still got Jordan.
He serves a good NFL role, but not a good fantasy role.
Yeah, exactly. So they still got Jordan Whittington. He's got promise. I believe they also have Tyler Johnson. I mean,
the former Bucs guy. That's true. Yeah,
not a big name, but someone that
last
could be
year in the injuries, like he was really kind of taking over as like he and Robinson were the 1-2 for a bit of that time.
Yeah. So Tutu, fantasy irrelevant. Go ahead, drop him in any type of league, even if it's like a 30 roster. I'm not keeping him.
And Dyami Brown, because they still have Gabe Davis, and it feels like they're going to have
different type
Ryan
players.
Thomas is going to come out in so much targets. Whether it's Brett and Strange or whatever tight end, it seems like they're going to get enough. And I mean, is Davis just a preferred option for Lawrence over Dyami Brown? Is he in it feels like he's almost in the same kind of situation as Tutu Atwell, but you'd rather Tutu be tied to Stafford as opposed to Lawrence, I think.
Yeah, I want to see where this wide receiver room goes because I still think they're not done. They could draft someone.
True. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess there's a chance Dyami Brown could usurp Gabe Davis, but I don't know.
I don't even look at Gabe Davis as a fancy relevant player. Dyami Brown, he could be electric. He plays that flanker spot, I believe, right?
I don't know what role he's going to play in the Jaguars, right? Like we know what he's kind of played in Washington, but the Jags could view him as totally different. So we don't really know. How much did Brian Thomas play in the slot last year? Because I'm thinking it wasn't that much.
I don't think it was much at all, honestly.
Is Dyami Brown their slot receiver? Is that a guy that they're viewing? That's the role we want him in.
There was a guy I liked coming out his rookie year, Parker Washington. Yes, yeah. Parker Washington. He played a little bit of slot. Like he's at
whenever Kirk got hurt, he was usually the replacement for Christian Kirk. That's true. That's a good point.
He was that bigger slot type receiver. I think he's over 200 pounds, but he's not quite 6 foot. But I remember writing an article or a blurb on him when he first was a prospect before he got drafted, saying he's a quarterback's best friend. He's the type of guy that you just throw the ball up to and he'll come down with it. So that does seem like a slot type of role where I think he could fill at least 40 to 50% of the time.
So that means, like, in all likelihood, Dyami Brown's competing against Gabe Davis. And you're saying, like, that's already a role we don't view as much fantasy relevance anyway. So even if he wins that, like, what do you win?
Exactly. I wouldn't touch him unless it was, like, a best ball format in one of the last type rounds.
I know. Ending here with two old guys, two blasts from the past. and literally one is the return. So we got DeAndre Hopkins going to the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh.
And then Mike Williams returning to the LA Chargers, both of them on 1 year, $6 million deals.
Man,
Kind of like this for Mike Williams just because he gets tied to Justin Herbert. But man, how bad was Mike Williams last year? Like, does he still have it?
see, I was thinking about this, and one of my biggest winners in this free agency is Lad McConkey, because they didn't bring in competition for targets. Like, yeah, they signed former Chargers Mike Williams, but I still view Quentin Johnston, even though I don't like Quentin Johnston because he can't catch, he's got brick hands. I still think Quentin Johnston is the number 2 behind Ladd and for targets. Mike Williams has a similar role as Quentin Johnston, so they're going to eat into each other.
Now, is Quentin Johnston's drops done enough that like Herbert's going to favor Mike Williams because he knows he can trust him? I've got Williams at wide receiver 82.
So that's not even rosterable. Really?
It's funny because in the Dynasty Junkies 3 league, I was over the roster limit before free agency, so I cut Mike Williams. Then this happens, like, maybe I should have picked someone else to cut, but it's done.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't worry about cutting Mike Williams. I don't see
enough.
this being that much because Quentin Johnston's still young. He's still learning. Maybe they're bringing Mike Williams in just to like kind of push him a little bit or even help him bring him along. But this isn't gonna affect Lad McConkey, which is
for sure. I agree.
Like,
all right. Well, the last guy I want to talk about on that 1 year contract was Marquez Valdez-Scantling with the Seahawks. I think we already kind of referenced him. He's kind of like the Tyler Lockett replacement. He got 1 year, $5.5 million, so even cheaper than Hopkins. And we didn't even mention anything about Hopkins, but like that. The old receivers going to Baltimore, it feels like they've done this so many times and it never works. Is Hopkins just better than all the others that it will work? But man, how bad he was with the Chiefs last year doesn't give me a ton of confidence.
Like MVS isn't that much better.
Here it's for Rashad Bateman. He's going to prevent Hopkins from being on the field more often than not. And it's the same type of thing where we're just not interested in rostering Hopkins at this point.
No, it's just that veteran presence. I think like I'd rather have Bateman over Hopkins. I'd rather have obviously Flowers, Andrews, likely. I think they're going to see more of a target share than Hopkins.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we saw it with Beckham a couple of years ago too. Like he just did nothing with Baltimore. So yeah, I'm kind of getting that sense too, where not really interested in Hopkins, not really interested in MVS. So again, it's a name we'll drop the ball on him like he loves to do. And we're going to move over to our final segment, the trade of the week.
I did want to bring up one last free agent just because
Go ahead.
This guy holds close to my heart. I named my son after him. Indianapolis Colts signed Ashton Doolin to a 2-year, $8.5 million contract. This doesn't help fantasy players at all, but it does help like the special teams. He was an undrafted free agent from a small school, and
he's the dude that had like I think it was something like a 60% dominator rating in college because it was such a small school that there was no one else, so he just got every target. It was like, ooh, that's cool for the profile, and then doesn't get drafted. It's like, okay.
But you don't see these type of guys succeed and get these $8.5 million contracts 5-6 years later.
Yeah, we joke about like a 2-year, $8.5 million. I'd love that. That's life-changing money for me. So it's certainly got to be
exactly.
Yeah,
and he has had a fantasy relevant week the past 2 years once. I believe it was week 1 last year, and it was week 2 the year before. But another thing with Daniel, did we talk about Daniel Jones, or are we going to talk?
We're going to talk about the quarterbacks next week. But
okay, let's talk about that next week then. All right.
Well, yeah. So for this week, the trade of the week brought to you by one of our comments actually in last week's YouTube. So shout out to Dynasty FF 777, Dynasty FF 777. Triple sevens. He has triple threat at quarterback. So this is a 10-team super flex league, half PPR, half point tight end premium. So tight ends get a full point per reception. Fairly simple trade. Justin Herbert on one side, Kyler Murray, and a 2026 first on the other side. And I think both of us have answered in the YouTube chats forum, but maybe this is just a way to add context and bring the trade more to the masses. I know my first quick takeaway was I'm the guy in last week's video that had Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert in the same tier. They're literally separated by one ranking in my QB rankings. I think Herbert's QB7, Kyler Murray QB8. One spot does not justify it first. So to me, I'm all in on the Kyler Murray in the first side because to me, like within a tier, I'll definitely take the free first to move within one tier. So the real question was you, JB, because you're someone who didn't have Kyler in that second tier quarterback, and there is a tier difference. So for you, that tier difference, does that represent a 26 first?
So real quick, explain the trade again, because I kind of forgot.
Well, yeah, so it's at the bottom of the screen right now. If you take a look, Justin Herbert on one side, Kyler Murray and a 26 first on the other side.
Justin Herbert for Kyler Murray in the first, and it's a tight end premium, right?
Yeah, 10-team super flex with some tight end premium.
Yeah, no, I would take that first because I think you can if you can get a Loveland at that 110.
Well, it's 26 first, so you're moving that first to next year.
Oh,
but right. I mean, you can use that 26 first to buy into this year's draft too, right? Like, so it doesn't preclude that.
Yeah, no, I kind of like the Murray side, but I would want that first to be this year. Because Murray and Herbert aren't too far apart. I know you have them in the same tier, but I have them close enough where I think Herbert's like 8 and Murray might be at 12 or something for me.
And moving down a tier, it's not worth it for a first, right? Like that's still like a moving down one tier, you might expect a second at most.
And you're still getting that first. That first has the opportunity to possibly be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And if that is a top 5 pick, that's a smash. Go with Murray.
I suppose the one reason I like a 26 first more than a 25 first is this team does seem like a strong competing team. So outside of quarterback, they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, like it's 3 top 8 receivers, Jaden Reed, Trey McBride, and David Njoku at tight end. Like this seems like a team that's set to compete. So having that 26 first in your back pocket in season might actually be more value to you as a trade chip in season than if I'm getting a 25 first and I have to pick a rookie right now. Is that rookie really going to help you win? You might saving that first for 26, even if you don't see 26, like you use that as a trade chip in season, that might get you something of more value that's more worth a win than just drafting a rookie.
Okay, so Justin Herbert's his third quarterback because
that's the last context I was going to say is
right
with
there,
Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts.
It's a 10-team league. I mean, you're still getting one of the best number 2 quarterbacks in Kyler Murray if you have him at 12
as your 3.
As your 3, and a first on top of that. Yeah, hands down. You'll get that first.
I almost view this as you're just getting a free first, right? Like, because is like, let's say it is a downgrade from Herbert to Murray at your QB3. Are you even really seeing that in your lineup? And points production wise is probably not even that. It's more about Kyler Murray's future long-term value. Herbert's going to be a starter in this league forever. As long as he wants to start, he's going to be able to keep starting. Yeah. Murray's the guy that people seem to be a little afraid of. Is he playing so bad that he'll eventually have to settle for these like 1-year contracts? Be kind of like a Justin Fields type quarterback. I think Murray's done enough that he still will avoid that. He'll still keep getting long-term contracts. So I see less risk, but I get that's why, like even, Dynasty FF777 replied to my comment, right? And his question was, do you not think Kyler will be replaced for the Cardinals soon? And, he's a better fantasy QB than NFL QB. And I think my response was, even if that happens, I still think some other team's going to make him a starter.
There's so many other jobs out there.
But let's say there is that risk. Are you really even seeing that as your QB3? Like Hurts and Allen seem pretty locked in, especially now that Hurts has won a Super Bowl. Even if he struggles as a passer, he's going to have a Super Bowl ring every time. So it's probably going to keep him that job cachet long as well. So all to say, like, it makes sense if you want to tier up from Kyler Murray to Herbert, but don't pay a first for it. Like, if you got a reasonable price to make that tier up, it makes sense. But for this perspective, I mean, you're not really hurting your chances to compete. And in fact, getting this 26 first might help you get that extra asset you need in season, replace an injury somewhere. Because this team looks strong, but Injuries can always like this. That's the one risk of this team is if someone gets hurt. Because otherwise, like this team looks like they're ready and set to compete.
Yeah.
And also to get to this point, though, they have used picks because right now their picks are 207 this year, 0.26 firsts, a 27 second. So they've already traded away their 26 first and their 27 first. And then 2028, it looks like they've got everything. But just recouping a first here without losing a spot in your lineup, it, to me, makes a ton of sense because now you've got that future flexibility. You know, that's really what's going to help you compete this year is those future picks. Like, can you use them as trade chips? So you've got that one extra big trade chip suddenly. Like the 207, I would look to try and flip that. Can you get a 26 second out of that for that same principle? Is the rookie you're drafting 207 this year really going to help you? If you have a 26 second in season, that could be a trade chip that could add a win somewhere.
Yeah, because picks don't get hurt, players do. So you're not going to lose value.
So as soon as you make that 207 pick, like that's a player that's suddenly susceptible to getting hurt. Whereas if you have a 26 second, you can hold that until you need it.
Yep. Just like last year, I drafted tons of Roman Wilson. He didn't even freaking play. I would rather have had a 26 second this year than
just ask for it in the future.
Yeah,
no, for sure. No, definitely. So it's it's why we always talk about the flexibility of picks. And this certainly helps a win now team. Doesn't hurt their chances to compete, helps their future flexibility, and that future flexibility might in fact actually help this team compete even better. So
and let's say that 26 first next year that he trades for, so he's getting Kyler Murray, and let's say it turns into Arch Manning. You just got yourself two backup quarterbacks.
Then you can sell Kyler Murray at like full price without getting a quarterback back, and you can like really add value whether in picks or another starter in another position. So I think it definitely allows you to do a lot of things here. Having a team with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts is pretty clutch. So you're set well. Like CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra, Gibbs and Achane, McBride and Njoku. Like you've got two solid options, like two elite options at every position. And you got several solid options. So definitely a great team. So I guess Dynasty FF77, like you know what you're doing. Clearly, this team is very well built. So it seemed like he was maybe hesitant for this trade. And I think hopefully we've given them confidence to make this trade. So I do think it's a good move to just bank that future first.
Yeah, I would like him to chime in after the show if he listens to this and let us know if you actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah, for sure. Comment away. And I mean, anyone can comment away, right? So now that this episode's done, you can head down to, if you can watch this after the fact, you can comment underneath. We'll try and get back to and respond to anyone who does leave comments in the YouTube chat. It's something we're going to try and do here. But every week, I might as well leave the trade up. It's a nice trade to see. If Dynasty FF777 wants to brag about it, gets to continue seeing it on screen. But every week we'll be back here on Wednesday nights here for the Dynasty Six Pack. Myself and Jamie Perog. I'm at Senra Says on Twitter. Jamie's at Jamie Perog. It's just his name. So, Jamie, any final thoughts here for this first part of the free agency frenzy?
It was great talk. I know we're missing a guy for a third episode, but he'll be back very soon. I think next week, right?
No, I think he's going to miss these two free agency episodes. And when we start talking about rookies is when Rahul Natarajan will return. So our great third co-host, he's on vacation now, but certainly enjoyed our first two episodes as a trio. And this is we got through over an hour and a half, Jamie. So you and I could talk Dynasty all the time. So it's definitely no problem doing these just 2-person episodes.
Yeah, it was fun talk, great information.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll plan to do it all again. And next week we'll be again dealing with more of the other positions, quarterback, running back, tight end. We really didn't address much. I mean, a couple of quarterback trades, but we'll really dive into those positions for free agency in the next episode of the Dynasty Six Pack. So make sure you subscribe. Check us out. Check out Fantasy Six Pack website, Fantasy Six Pack Discord, all the great videos on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube. We'll see you next time. I'll say the title again. Dynasty Six Pack. I should say it 6 times per episode. I should try and find a way. Man, there's a number of reasons I love numbers, but I think our time number is running out. So we'll hit the outro and we'll see you all next week.